So this next piece, I would like to talk about Donald Trump. He did a recent appearance on Andrew Schultz's podcast, and these guys, I mean, I said this with Theo Von, but these guys do a way better job than the corporate press. Nowhere has anyone really asked Trump in detail about the shots that were taken at him. And these guys not only do that, but they also follow up and make him like finish his answers. They're better journalists than 99% of the corporate press. So we're going to start with this first clip is just him talking about that attempt. And like I said, them kind of really pushing him to get some good answers out of him.
There was this assassination attempt. They hit you. Headshot. You survive.
Yeah. It was not a good feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you scared?
Better, by the way.
No, I'm not scared.
So one of the things I did notice, if you look closely at this footage, because I've always been curious about this, like what happened to the ear. And I'm sure that Trump is rich, so I'm sure a plastic surgeon came in and like reconstructed it because he's going to be on TV. And it does, if you watch his right ear, which is the one that hit because he turned his head and the bullet sailed by his right side when he turned his head. It looks like that ear is a little bit longer than the other one. And this is just, for entertainment purposes, only my conspiracy theory, but, not my conspiracy theory, but I've always been curious about that. Like, you don't see a visible wound on his ear. And I'm sure that, like I said, he has the best surgeons that put it back together. But it does look, if you look closely, like there might be something up with that right ear.
I have an attitude. It's interesting. It is what it is. Does that make any sense to you guys? You do what you have to do. I felt it was important to go back. A lot of people, I guess, agreed with me because it was over 100. I think they said 108,000 people in the end. That's a lot of people.
Super Bowl.
And I had no guitar. If you have a guitar, it's easy. When you don't have a guitar.
I thought you said Qatar.
Yeah, I have guitar. I do have that. They like me very much. But I don't have a guitar.
Yeah, you have the guitar, yes.
So anyway, but that was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, I like it when.
So the argument that Trump is somehow like demented or something, listen to the guy. He's clearly sharp. Like he just made a joke about Qatar.
Somebody like Elon, who has a lot to lose, is willing to do what's right.
Yeah.
Some people know it's right to do, and I'm not just talking about endorsements and all, but they don't want to do things because they're...
they don't want it to cost them opportunities.
The word is they want to be politically correct. And actually they're doing a bad thing, I think, for themselves and for a lot of people they may represent.
Okay, opening line when you walk out there.
So, right.
I mean,
I was wondering what you were going to say. And as a comedian, you can seize the moment.
Yeah.
And
I think he was a hell of a comedian, by the way.
I appreciate that.
That's what the word is.
So I hear you go, I see the video and you go up there and you go, as I was saying.
Right.
Crowd goes fucking berserk or what?
They went, I would say, crazy.
Yeah.
Just a quick side note. If you ever see me go full screen like that, it's probably because I got up to get a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And I wasn't
Biggest
sure.
pop you've experienced?
Yeah, I'll tell you how, you have this as a comedian or even not as a comedian, just when you make a speech or you make some very serious statement.
Yeah.
So we're at a very serious and somber thing because we're celebrating a life that is no longer with us. And I wasn't sure whether or not that thing, I had it in my mind for a long time. Once I said I'm going back, which I wanted to go back immediately, I wanted to actually finish my speech, okay? When I got up, I said, let me finish my speech. But I'm surrounded by like 8 very large, strong men and a very wonderful woman. You saw that.
Yeah.
But I'm surrounded by guys. They said, sir, no way, go. And I have blood pouring down, but I really wanted to finish my speech. I said, I think I had like 50,000. I had a lot of people there.
Yeah.
And, when I went down, it was sort of like embarrassed. I said, I went down in front of all these people. That was my first thing. I don't want to be embarrassed.
You were embarrassed that you went down after being shot?
Well, you weren't exactly sure what the hell was happening at first,
Yeah. But also, you came back up with the fist raised. That's one of the hardest pictures.
But I was also,
Did you hear them say he's down, or were you just
so when I got hit, I assume that, it's funny,
Is it?
When I was down there, it is sort of strange. I guess now it's a little bit, we can smile a little bit, but not really, because the three guys, one killed, two very badly.
Yeah.
But when I went down, I had total realization. It wasn't a surreal. You know, they talked about a surreal. That could be a surreal experience, like when something happens, some traumatic thing happens. People they lose focus. They have no idea where they are. I've heard many people where that happens. Something really terrible happens that. It was just the opposite. I knew exactly what had happened. I got shot in the ear, and Secret Service thought I may have been shot. Actually, they were pretty sure that I was shot all over because there was a lot of blood. Just a little fact, if you get shot in the ear, it's the bloodiest place. It bleeds more than anything else.
Oh, wow.
Now, it's good to be shot this way, not that way. That way, that's bad. So if I don't turn, I would be doing this right now, guaranteed.
Guys, I got some stand-up
That's
shows
the one
coming up.
question that I wish they would have asked him is, hey, your ear looks good. What happened? Like, did they do surgery on you? What did they do to reconstruct your ear? But there's a lot of good stuff in here, and you should go watch the whole thing because it's actually a pretty interesting interview. But they keep pressing with him on this assassination stuff, and they actually get some pretty good answers, a little bit more out of him in this second piece here. And this one's a little bit longer, but we'll break it up a bit
to take you out.
So I'm going to give you some big breaking news, right?
Love that.
Because I know the kind of show, and it's entertainment, but it's also very serious. I mean, I get the whole picture. And you know what? If it was just funny stuff, you wouldn't have the success you've got, to be honest with you, right?
Yeah.
It's nice to intersperse it, but I'll give you something. So, first of all, I have great...
That's actually a great point. I think that's one of the reasons Howard Stern was popular back when he was good, is because he would do these funny bits, but he would also have like serious interviews and serious commentary on social
respect for the Secret Service. And the guys that were with me, I went down and I did a good job going down because those bullets were winging over my head. If I would have been up for another couple of seconds, I also wouldn't have been here. But I didn't consider that as...
I love how Trump is like the way he described it. I did a good job going down. Everything he does... I did a good job going.
Lucky as turning to the right at that it was like 1/16 of a second was the only time that I was safe, essentially.
Right.
If I would have gone a little further, I would have been hit. If I would have gone not as far, I would have been hit. I mean, I had like this little tiny moment. And the amazing thing is the sign is always on my left and it's always at the end. And I only use it 20% of the time, maybe even less than that.
And
this was
time
a chart.
Right.
This was a chart on immigration because I have the record. I did a great job in immigration. They are not doing too well right now.
Stay on the breaking news. Stay on the breaking news.
So here's the breaking. So you have...
See, I got to give these guys so much credit because they do such a good job, like keeping him on topic.
This shooter, and you have another shooter, right? So this shooter had 3 or so cell phones. The FBI's never gotten them opened.
Wow.
The other shooter, 3 apps, they call them. And I believe they were foreign-based apps, from what I understand.
From what I understand, yeah, because that's what they're telling him, of course.
Oh, wow.
They haven't opened them, and they're foreign-based. And, you know, you hear all about Iran, because I was rough with Iran, but I want to see Iran do great. I want to see Iran do great.
Yeah.
But
that, to me, is the breaking news here. I want to see Iran do great because there's a lot of people, I think, that, you know, rightfully are critical of Trump and are like, oh, we're going to get war with him too. But listen to his tone on that. I want to see Iran do great. I want to see Iran do good. He's, you know, he speaks off the cuff. And I think, you know, again, that's one of the reasons they hate him.
I want to stop all the killing and all this. And I was rough on Iran, and they supposedly have a hit on me. In fact, I think it takes great courage for you people to be interviewing me, because it could be now.
When he talks about this, I like how he listen to the language he's using there. Maybe I'm being over analytical here, but he's like, supposedly.
Now, you know.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know that before we got in here.
No, if you would have known that, you might not have done this.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, this is a good way of me getting the interview to be shorter. All of a sudden, he's going to say, you know, okay, that's it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Again, does that sound like a senile guy who's like completely out of it? not even close. I don't know how people can get away with painting this guy as being at this level of dementia that Biden was at. He's an older guy, so he may have moments, but you listen to this, and this doesn't seem like it was edited in any way. It's pretty raw. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that there are portions that they took out, but
they have 3 apps, and foreign-based, 2 of them, maybe 3 of them are foreign-based. They haven't opened them yet. Why wouldn't you open them when you hear about Iran or when you hear about, foreign? Then the other one had 6 cell phones, and they haven't opened. Now, it's very hard to open a cell phone. Only Apple can do it in theory, unless you have somebody. But they had no problem getting the J6 people's cell phones open. They opened their cell phones very quickly.
That's fair.
We have 2 countries in a way. What's happening here is very bad. It's very dangerous. We almost had one because I had the greatest economy in the history of our country.
There it is again. The greatest economy in the history of our country.
And people were coming together. We almost had one, but we really do have 2 right now, and it's a shame because I think we'll get them together. Success will bring us together, but they should get those phones opened. And, when there's an assassination attempt on a former president who's now, I'm proud to say, leading in all the polls against the Democrat, I don't know which one is running. You don't know what the hell's going on. I'm the only one that had to run against 2. I run against 2 Democrats, but this is a first. We create a lot of firsts. Usually you run against somebody. Here I run. I had the debate. I was way up on him. Yeah. And then they say, let's put this is like with Dana White, a fighter. So you're fighting, and the one guy's getting killed. And they say, that's okay, let's put in another fighter to finish it off, okay? And you're fighting to say, hey, wait a minute, I have a brand new fighter in here.
WWE.
I spent $150 million on beating Biden, and then all of a sudden I hear that they're going to overthrow him. It was a coup. I mean, it really was. But I would like...
I just showed you that tweet again, the MSNBC article. Republicans float the conspiracy theory that Biden won't be on the ticket come November. And here we are with that conspiracy theory, a complete reality. Less than a year later, I think the original article from MSNBC was posted on like October 26th. So less than a year later, that conspiracy theory is manifest reality.
Them to open up these apps and find out what's in there. And so he had six cell phones. Who has 6 cell phones? Mm-hmm. Having 6 cell phones is weird. I have cell phones. If I ever have 2, it's like a lot.
Yeah.
He had 6 cell phones. Why does he have them? And why haven't they opened up those cell phones?
So if you had to
and
guess.
It's different. If you're a drug dealer, I think it's terrible in many ways, but I guess from another standpoint, Apple, the primary group, people buy those phones because they will never open them for any reason. But they got them open on.
So more than anything, too, I think this is like good credit to Apple. Good job, Apple. Like, you shouldn't open the phones for any reason, for anything, unless it's something. I mean, if it's something this serious, imagine if someone tried to assassinate Barack Obama. Like, you would want people in that phone. Totally. And same with Kamala or anyone. I don't care what their party is. If someone's taking shots at a presidential candidate, their phone is game to be opened by Apple. That's a massive issue, that affects the world on a crazy level. So that is understandable, but anything beneath that, I think is no.
J6, they opened up their phones, but they don't open. And this is big stuff. This is an assassination attempt, and it could involve other countries.
There was that San Bernardino shooter that they hacked. The FBI was able to hack into the phone. Apple didn't give it up, but they were able to hack in.
There are some people in the world, very few, that have an ability to sometimes be able to hack in.
Got it.
Very rarely, actually.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing when you think that with all the genius, you almost can't do it. But Apple has a key, and the key is open. I mean, they can do it immediately. Yeah. But they don't do it, and they don't do it, and that's one of the reasons that, like, I hate to say it, drug lords feel very confident that they'll never be exposed, and they use their cell phones, their Apple phones, and maybe it's that way with other companies. I don't know. They have Samsung, they have other companies.
I mean, here's the thing. Even if you can't hack into a drug dealer's phone, there are so many other ways, there are so many other methods that the U.S. security state has to catch them. They can intercept their messages. They can get shit from the towers. There's so much you can do with that, even without hacking into the phone. So again, I'm not for it.
But it's very hard. Apple's very strong on that. But when it comes to the assassination of a president, leading candidate, former president, all that, I think the rules have to go out and they have to open those things and they have to find out. And
in terms of national security,
some people would say you have to either punish Apple or you have to get somebody that can do it. But in terms of national security, so the one guy has 6 phones, lots of messages to people. Who are those people he's calling when he's hiding behind the bush?
So if you had to,
I'm sure it's Iran, right? That might be one of the reasons they're not letting him get into his phone. I mean, it's speculation for entertainment purposes.
I'm sure you've thought about this a lot. It's an assassination attempt. If you had to guess, who do you think is responsible?
These are great questions. What the hell? I don't get these questions from the fake news.
Rosie O'Donnell.
Trump agrees with me. Isn't that great?
Like Deface the Nation. They have the woman on Brennan. She's on Deface the Nation. She was terrible with the way she handled J.D. Vance, who did a great job the other night.
He did a great job.
But I don't get questions like that. Did you ever hear of the show Deface? Ladies and gentlemen, it's Donald Trump on Deface the Nation. It's called Face the Nation. They hate me.
No,
they spend millions of dollars.
They would name a show that?
Oh, I see. You didn't hear of it. That's good. They spend millions of dollars on the name CBS. Yeah. And then I come along and I say it's Face the Nation. Or Meet the Fake Press. Meet the press.
You're good at this.
I say Meet the Fake Press. Yeah. And they spend all this money, and then I say it once, and it goes to millions of people. Yeah. But no, they are fake. But some of these questions are much better.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm honored.
Much better.
You still haven't answered, though. That was the best dodge of the question. That's your second best dodge of your life.
You almost charmed us out of it.
Trying to get out of it.
All right, fair enough.
Well, look.
How could you, like, watching stuff like this, how could you not like this guy? He has so much candor. He's like, I'm trying to get out of it.
If you look at assassinations or attempts, first of all, you realize I'm in a very dangerous business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is crazy.
Because
this is like one of the, you have to listen to this because this is a fantastic point that I never thought about in a million years. I never would have made these comparisons, but listen to the numbers that they go through right here. This is 1/10.
Think of this. 1/10 of 1% of auto races die.
Yep.
Bull riders. I think that's pretty dangerous, right?
Yeah.
I don't know much about it, but I think I wouldn't want to be on one of those suckers.
No. Yeah.
I see them flying off and the hoof is like an inch from the eye. And when it hits the eye, you're gone,
Game
right?
over. Yeah.
And they are it's about the same. 1/10 of 1%.
Yeah.
And other things. It's never much more than that. That's sort of maxed out, I think. Race car drivers, bull riders, I think that's pretty much tough.
Yeah.
UFC fighters, it's none. I don't think anyone's ever actually...
Not in UFC. In MMA or boxing,
maybe.
It must be those tragic events.
Amazingly, boxers die a lot. But UFC, Danny tells me it's a safe sport. I say, to me, it's much rougher. But, it's pretty amazing. They've never, in UFC, they've never lost. And they run a great operation. Nobody's died. But with presidents, it's like a substantial percentage.
Way higher than we realize.
When you look at Lincoln and Kennedy and this and that.
Attempts,
you go
Reagan.
Through McKinley.
Yep. Garfield.
You look at a lot of people. I'm in a very dangerous
business.
Profession.
Yeah.
I call it a profession.
Yes.
Yeah. A dangerous profession.
I like that.
I'm sitting with you guys. You have a very nice, safe life. Me? Yeah. So, no, if you said 5%.
I think he called us soft.
No,
yeah,
but think
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, but think of it. 5%.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's high.
That's a lot. And
So that's an interesting moment of enlightenment that I never thought about. A lot of politicians, a lot of our presidents have been assassinated or had assassination attempts leveled at them, and that's crazy to think about. He's actually right. Statistically, he's less safe than like an Indy race car driver. But this next clip is really good, and this whole interview, if you're into absorbing this kind of stuff and you're curious about it, I definitely recommend watching the whole thing because it's really good from front to back. But Trump talks about his rambling right here, and I thought this was so great. He has a name for it. He calls it the weave. It's like the same
I do a thing called the weave. And there are those that are fair that say, this guy is so genius. And then others would say, oh, he rambled. I don't ramble. If I start a story, what you do is you weave things and you do it. You have to have certain things. You need an extraordinary memory because you have to come back to where you started.
Yes.
You always, a weave is only good if you come back.
They don't give you credit for that.
Yeah, it's true.
Then you could go all the way over here and then
I
get
can
back.
go so far here or there, and I can come back to exactly where I started. Now, someday when you don't come back to where you started,
You're Biden.
then you say, no, but the weave is the way. When you're telling, like a story, I was telling a story at a rally the other day in front of thousands of people, and I started off, and then
You were weaving them up.
something in the story, I actually mentioned Air Force One. It was Air Force One was there. So I mentioned Air Force One, and then I said how I got $1.6 billion off the price of Air Force One. So, but then you have to come back to the story. Where was Air Force One taking you? So anyway, I do a weave. I call it the weave. And some people think it's so genius, but the bad people, what they say is, he was rambling. Yeah. It's not a ramble. There's no rambling.
This is a weave.
This is a weave. I call it the weave. Good name. I'm not sure. That's another name. We had fake news. We came up with lots of names.
Yeah.
But
This one, so near the end, Akash Singh actually gets really kind of goes into the weeds on some stuff that I think is important. And one of those issues is abortion. And they talk about abortion. And, the way that Akash approaches it is actually very cool. He kind of comes at it as a moderate type thing. But in addition to abortion, he asks him about, his rhetoric, the Trumpian rhetoric, because that's really what he's most famous for, is just saying things off the cuff. But let's start with this piece about abortion, because this is actually another good moment of clarity for people who, keep hearing all these falsehoods about where this guy stands.
Anything went a little bit too far. If you feel the state goes a little bit too far, will you use a little influence and say, hey, maybe Brennan says we can make exceptions?
I would. Oh, no, I won't back it. I won't back it. I think
I think that's important for moderates to hear. That's why I want to give you the opportunity to say that.
No, some states say no weeks. But they're all changing because the people in the state won't stand for that. There are some states that say, under no circumstances, you have a daughter and she's raped by the worst, most violent criminal in the country, and you cannot get, her. You cannot take
she
her
has to live with that for the rest of her life.
She's got to live with this. And, the father is a monster. He's from an insane asylum because he killed 50 people. And you're going to have that baby. And I can't believe.
You have to have empathy for that.
No, I can't believe that people are forced to do that.
Yes.
And you have a tiny, right now, it used to be a much bigger segment. No, I think I've done a good job in a lot of ways because I've convinced people that you just can't do that.
No, that's important.
It's always been complex. It's always been tough. But we've come a long way with that issue. But just in a nutshell, bringing it back to the states and giving a vote of the people is where they wanted it 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
So what he's saying here too, the reason I'm not against that is because if you think about it, women won't want to live in states, professional women, and of which there are a lot, won't want to live in a state that limits their rights like that. And those states' economies will lose out in massive ways. If you look at the difference between like Seattle and Montgomery, Alabama, for example, or anywhere in Louisiana versus like Austin, Texas, you can see the economic differences that these kind of policies will create. So let the states shoot themselves in the foot.
And then they got a little complex. They talked about the length and the number of
but
weeks.
With protections, with protections for women. And
to me, you have to. Ronald Reagan a long time ago was with the same 3 protections. He said he wanted, for rape, incest, and the life of the mother, and that was a long time ago.
Okay, you have a very busy day. Before you go, what would you like your legacy to be?
Okay, so let me jump to this last clip here, and this one has a couple good moments in it. So this last clip I got, Trump kind of roasts Joe Biden, but then Akash asks him to tone about his rhetoric and the tone of things he says, and the whole thing is interesting. So check this out.
After that, we're not going to needed to. This is the most important election in the history of our country. Vote for this most important election. And then if you don't want to vote, we're going to have elections, but you don't have to vote because it's going to go along swimmingly.
That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, that's how everybody.
So right there, I kind of cut in a little bit late, but he's clarifying one of his comments that the Democrats have kind of taken out of context and said, like, he's going to be a dictator. He's saying that you like this election's so important. Anyway, I don't know if that's a dodge or not, but they kind of seem to think that.
That's how they interpreted it too.
Yes. They know what
you got to vote this time because we can't wait 4 years. Because you know what? In another 4 years, like we've just had with this clown that's a president, that's just a clown, a foolish man. Don't forget, he was a stupid man 25 years ago. He was never a smart man. He's run many times. Isn't it amazing? He's run many times, and he gets it when he's in serious decline, okay? But anyway, so everybody knows that. Okay. And that's what I meant by it.
Yeah.
It means we got to fix it.
Yeah.
And then it's going to work beautifully. It's going to run beautiful. We're going to have elections every 2 years and every 4 years. It's going to be great.
I just want to give you a chance to say that to
what was your second
And if I could ask one question. Everybody I speak to, every race, creed, whatever, they don't just like you, they love you. And I talk to people on both sides about your policies, and a lot of people that like your policies. The China tariff that's still in place right now is an example of policy that people love. I think sometimes what we love about you as comedians is you shoot from the hip, but then that gets twisted into this rhetoric that adds gasoline onto everything. So the one thing I would like, as I think a moderate person, is maybe if you get elected, would you be a little bit more mindful of how powerful your words are for better and for worse?
I will, and I'm going to think of you every time.
Let's go. I might actually vote.
No, it's true. I understand that. Sometimes they say, oh, could you be a little bit more? But you're doing a lot of things, and you're solving a lot of problems. Yeah. I stopped wars that nobody will ever know about, they won't write about, but countries that were fighting each other and didn't affect us much, but they did business with us.
So again, just to kind of wrap this up nicely, I'll just be honest again. I want Trump to win this cycle.